The system is failing. We're going to have more homelessness, more unemployment, and the government has to print more money. It's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. I just don't trust our government. And they're going to have to start printing pretty quickly. And the more they print, the less value, purchasing power the dollar has, or the loonie, or the yen, or the peso. People are talking about inflation. I think we're in depression right now, and we're going to be the biggest depression in world history. In the 1970s, that's when the world was changing. The biggest bust in the history of the world is coming up. It's pensions. They trusted the government. They trusted their pension would be there, and it's going to go bust. And that's us. We'd get crushed.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. As today we're going to discuss how Ripple will lose this case against the SEC. These opinion pieces trying to be portrayed as if they're objective reality is absolutely silly to me. But everyone in the XRP army has had to deal with this since the inception of Ripple and XRP. Everyone, every Bitcoin maxi has always viewed Ripple and XRP as a massive threat. And I see why. You see, this article posted on you today is written with someone who has anti-Ripple and XRP biases already, and clearly have not taken the time to look over every single piece of evidence already posted in this lawsuit and in this case. But that's besides the point. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an objective reality where Ripple and XRP have a less than ideal scenario come into play for them. But there's also a reality where Ripple and XRP can dominate. It's not going to be one of those scenarios where Ripple or the SEC get everything they want. Compromises are going to be had. And that's very, very clear to me. But what's not clear to most people is why. You see, the reason why is because of the SEC's corruption, both in the past administration with Jay Clayton and Bill Hinman, and now with Gary Gensler and FTX. You see, what's so funny to me is that Gary Gensler is trying to leverage the FTX debacle to try and regulate crypto even harder. An enforcement action was made against Ripple, the company, who has been trying to be as compliant as possible since the beginning of their company. Has open XRP market reports available for everyone. And yet, no enforcement actions have been made by the SEC against FTX at all. And instead, when asked directly about Gary Gensler's meeting with FTX's CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, he decides to not talk about it at all.
According to your calendar, you met with now former CEO of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, on March 29th of this year. Aside from that, had you met with him any other times, and what was your impression of him when you met with him?
Again, I'm not going to speak to anyone matters. I make, as my predecessors did as well, my calendar public. And we meet with market participants, and the basic message that I've had is the same public message as a private message. Come into compliance.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's so funny about what Gary Gensler just stated is that everyone in crypto has been begging for the SEC to just bring some guidance. And the thing is, Gary Gensler knows that the forms required to register a crypto company as a security cannot even be completed for public blockchains. It's literally impossible. Gary Gensler knows this, and he takes advantage of the fact that the media doesn't. Everyone in crypto just wants there to be proper guardrails. Imagine you're trying to run a business, trying to make it successful within the United States. You beg the regulators to help. Maybe you go in and talk to the regulators about your business model, and instead, because of your willingness to try and negotiate and discuss everything going on within your business to these regulators, you get boom, sued, boom, obliterated. Why do you think that nobody wants to come in and talk? Coming in and talking with the SEC is synonymous with coming in to get sued by the SEC. Come in and comply, and you'll suffer the same fate as the library did. What an absolute abomination to society Gary Gensler is. And I bet you, if you look further into what he did with FTX, you'll find that he's 100% guilty and complicit in the annihilation of tens of billions of customer funds. Not only that, but in the BlockFi settlement, he's taking stolen consumer funds as well as part of his settlement payment. Gary Gensler does not protect retail investors. He is complicit in the annihilation of retail, and he does not deserve to regulate this space.
Your field will not last long outside of public policy norms. I might be technology neutral, but I'm paid not to be public policy neutral, and it's about protecting the investing public. The message has also been that we're not going to let the public all the safeguards down in this regard. So some of these platforms have come in and said, we want to continue running a commingled platform. We want to continue doing lending, trading, hedge fund functions, an exchange function, a custody function. We said, no, you have to separate it out. Some have come in and said, can we have a lighter touch regulation? We've said, no. We said, no, the time-tested protection. And I want to say one other thing. It would not be fair to all the market participants that comply today, the stock exchanges, the broker-dealers, the asset managers called mutual funds, and even the folks that are managing hedge funds today that are complying, the market makers that are complying with their rules when they're trading and buying Apple stock or Ford Motor. Why should it be different here?
Yeah, to your point, I'm wondering if we need proof of reserves, but not only just proof of reserves, but a way to vet internal controls on these crypto firms. Because we look at Sarbanes-Oxley, and then we look at what happened, as an example, with the FTX situation. According to the bankruptcy filings, there was a huge failure of internal corporate controls. We know that FTX was technically audited, but that was not caught. So do we need some sort of rules in place for that
They're
portion?
in place. They're in place. See, here's the good news for the public. If you're, I look to you. The good news is, over decades, we've put in place. Congress put them in place by law. This agency, this great agency, put it in place through regulation. Basic rules around books and records, basic rules around internal controls, basic rules around.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Gary Gensler believes no more rules should be in place. 20th century law is now being used, in Gary's eyes, to apply to 21st century technology. An absolute disgrace. And what's even more disgraceful is that House Financial Services Committee Chairwoman Maxine Waters stated to Democrats that she doesn't plan to subpoena former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried. If you donate enough money to these politicians, you have a get-out-of-jail-free pass. Absolutely unbelievable. A full-blown investigation needs to be had, and I believe with the Republican Congress in power, there will be one. Ryan Selkis posted an absolute savage letter from progressive Richie Torres regarding SEC Chair's Gensler utterly embarrassing reign of terror. I'm writing respectfully to request that the Government Accountability Office conduct an independent review of the SEC's failure to protect the investing public from egregious mismanagement and malfeasance of FTX, which has brought billions of dollars in losses to about 1 million creditors and customers. Ladies and gentlemen, what's so funny Gary Gensler does not want to talk about that, nor will he bring any type of enforcement actions onto FTX, but Lil Ol Library, Compliant Ripple, other exchanges that are trying to work with the law, and other crypto projects, he wants them to come in to try and comply. Comply to what? An SEC lawsuit? Comply to what? Trying to destroy their business? Comply to what? Chair Gary Gensler, by the logic of his own pronouncements, is singularly responsible for the regulatory failures surrounding the collapse of FTX and its affiliate, FTX US. Gensler has said on countless occasions that there is no need for authorizing legislation from Congress. Oh, really? The SEC presently possesses the authority it needs to regulate crypto exchanges. Oh, really, Gary? If the SEC has this authority Mr. Gensler claims, why did he fail to uncover the largest crypto Ponzi scheme in US history, while at the same time trying to take advice about future crypto regulation from that same biggest con man? Oh, Gary. Mr. Burns looking ass Gary. Oh, we're coming for you, Gary. You're in a lot of trouble, my friend. You can try and pretend, not provide guidance, and run around the law, but you're gonna get got. One cannot have it both ways, asserting authority while avoiding accountability. It is on Congress to pass laws, but once the necessary laws have been enacted, it is on the regulators to apply those laws to consider investigations and protect the public. And when it comes to FTX, Gensler fundamentally failed as a regulator, and he has no one but himself to blame. Because as Gary stated, there are rules in place, so why did you not come after FTX and instead decided to meet with them and try and get legislation passed that was sponsored by Sam Bankman-Fried? Oh, this is starting to look a lot like the conflicts of interest from that Ripple SEC case and the Bill Hinman speech, isn't it? The SEC loves having it both ways. The SEC chose to dedicate scarce time and resources to investigating Kim Kardashian rather than opaque crypto exchanges, leaving many to question whether the commission is operating efficiently and apolitically, and whether it has priorities in the right place. The operating principle of the SEC must be protection for the investing public, rather than publicity for the political appointee in charge. If the SEC had done the due diligence of thoroughly investigating the financial of FTX, there would have been a greater likelihood of exposing the exchange for what it truly is: a house of cards built on monopoly money printed out of thin air. Gensler's leadership has left the career staff at the SEC fundamentally demoralized to an extent rarely seen, with the SEC Inspector General reporting the highest attrition rate in a decade. To what extent Gensler's demoralization of his own workforce crippled the commission in the performance of its duty to protect investors? To what extent has Gensler's demoralization of his own staff and workforce crippled the commission in the performance of its duty to protect investors? The public deserves an answer. Given the magnitude of the regulatory failure surrounding FTX, an independent review is both needed and warranted. This is absolutely amazing, and I 100% agree. Gensler's trying to wag the finger at us, at the crypto industry. But right here, his words are being used against him. And I think karma's going to come his way as well. Gary Gensler does not deserve to regulate crypto and deserves to be fired. And there is one ongoing case that's still happening that could maybe save Gensler's career. That is this Ripple vs. SEC case. There is no positive PR coming out of the SEC right now, but if, maybe, hopefully, if they get a settlement where Ripple has to pay a hefty fine, the only thing he would be able to say is that he got quite a lot of money from Ripple. But the only other enforcement action that resulted in a settlement was with BlockFi, and that's not even getting paid out. And the money that did get paid out was stolen consumer funds. What an absolute abomination. This case is coming to an end, as Stu Alderati, general counsel from Ripple, has stated. And with the ending of this case in full-blown effect, final briefs being filed as well, and Gary being under extreme scrutiny, the likelihood of a settlement where XRP gets clarity and where the SEC does not win is more likely than a full-blown loss for Ripple. That article written in the beginning of this video was an absolute shit show. And while we've been dealing with misinformation in the crypto space around XRP for years, the truth will set XRP free. Ladies and gentlemen, to cap off this video, I'm going to play the rest of this interview Gary Gensler has. And please listen for context of how bad of a regulator he is to the rest of what he had to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Now I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
So should we expect more enforcement action then?
Look, I can't speak of any one matter. This is a great agency. We have 1,300 people in our enforcement division. We have 1,100 people in our examination division. Mm-hmm. That's half of the agency. We oversee $100 trillion capital markets. We bring about 700 enforcement actions a year across insider trading and microcap fraud and books and records violations, as you talked about earlier. And yes, we have a robust enforcement history in the crypto space. I think over 100 actions, a couple dozen while I've been here as chair, against crypto exchanges, against crypto lending platforms, against, of course, tokens. We had a very big win recently in a case around a crypto token called Library. Unfortunately for the investing public, the entrepreneurs in this field have chosen, and it's a choice, they have chosen to try to skirt the law, whether they're setting up overseas and they're servicing overseas actors. That's for other jurisdictions, that's for other regulators around the globe. But if they're tapping into US markets, they need to come into compliance.
To your point, so much of this is happening overseas. We saw that with FTX. The international unit went down, brought the US unit down with it. Do you need better coordination with global authorities? How does that factor into your ability to police?
We have good coordination around the globe, but there are different laws, and particularly in small island jurisdictions in the Caribbean island, Cayman Islands, the Virgin Islands, Bahama, Bermuda, but sometimes outside of the Caribbean. You see some of these crypto entities are set up in the Seychelles or in Malta and the like. So we have our best coordination with the larger economy countries. But that coordination is important. But I would say if you're tapping into U.S. investors, our securities laws are to be complied with.
Okay, so then bottom line here, securities laws in place. We don't need extra tailored rules for crypto. We won't be expecting that next year.
The agency could use more resources from Congress. We could definitely do that. You raise the extraterritoriality reach. We have a reach that's U.S. jurisdiction. But the laws are there, the rules are there, and I would say something else. The law firms know how to advise their clients to comply. They're all too often, these firms are saying, we'll set up overseas. But there was even an announcement this week by a crypto lending firm that said we will no longer be offering any of our products to U.S. investors. That's a way to protect U.S. investors as well.